All right, we're continuing on with marginal physical product. You might be thinking, man, we're beating a dead horse. But guys, this marginal physical product is a very important concept of economics. Remember that in economics, we deal on the margin. And we're going to look at adding one more unit of labor. Is that the right aspect for us? Adding one more amount of input, is that going to be good? Is that going to be profitable? Well, we have to really get into marginal physical product and truly understand that marginal physical product is adding one more input. It's that change. It's the change in output from adding one more unit of input. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it and analyze it a little bit further. So we're going to use the numbers from the previous table. Remember, we were looking at daily output use, or daily labor use, and total output, and we could use those to calculate this marginal physical output. Now, if you haven't taken it upon yourself yet, I would encourage you to go through and actually take the daily labor use and the daily output and actually calculate marginal physical product. Make sure you can get these same numbers so that way you understand how to actually calculate marginal physical product. If you haven't done that yet, make sure you do that as a way to study and get into understanding this material more. So, as we increase from 10 to 16 hours of labor, as we go from 10 to 16, we actually see that we produce 0.33. Our marginal physical product is 0.33. So what does this mean? It means that for every additional hour worked from 10 to 16, so that 11th hour, that 12th hour, that 13th, 14th, and 15th, and 16th hour, you make 1/3 of an additional product. So essentially, working one more hour means you make 1/3 more of a good. So, for example, if you work for 3 hours between 10 and 16 hours, by adding or working for 3 hours, you can expect to make one more total product. So, what about going from 16 to 20 hours? So, as we increase our daily labor use from 16 to 20, we actually produce our marginal physical product is 0.45. So, what does this value mean? Well, this value means that for every additional hour worked, from 16 to 20 hours, so the 17th, the 18th, the 19th, and the 20th hour, you're going to make 0.45 of a unit in an additional hour. So working one more hour means you're going to produce 0.45 or 45th hundredths of another good. You're going to produce 0.45 of another good. Working one more hour is going to produce that. So let's compare the numbers. If you work from 10 to 16 hours, you can expect to make 1/3 additional good. If you produce from 16 to 22 hours, you're producing 0.45 additional good. Well, which one is producing more? Well, it's that 16 to 20 hour range. 0.45 is higher than 0.33. So this one is greater than this side over here. So what does that mean? Well, it means you're producing more per additional hour. You can get more done per additional hour when you're in this time frame than when you were in this time frame. So it means that you're becoming more efficient. You're becoming more efficient. You're producing more with the same amount of time. You're actually producing more within this time frame than it was up here. So, what about if you keep increasing though? Increasing the number of hours. Well, you go from 20 to 22 hours. You increase in this time frame, and guess what? Now you're producing at 0.85. So you're producing more than even you were here or here per additional hour. So working one more hour is going to produce almost a whole good per hour. You're more efficient here than even up here or up here. So let me dive into what does efficiency mean. Efficiency looks at how much are you producing per additional hour. Actually, efficiency is more of what is your total output per input. But we know that you're going to get more out of that additional hour, making you work faster, making you more efficient, making you work better at that point in time on terms of additional hours. So what about if you're producing from 22 to 26? So we increase from here to here. Well, if you're in that time span, well, what's happening? Your marginal physical product is actually going down. So you're working one more hour means you're producing 0.4 of another good. your efficiency of additional hours has actually peaked at this point in time and is actually beginning to decrease. Now each additional hour is going to produce less than what it did between the 20 and 22 aspect. So this trend is going to occur. We're going to see that additional output per hour, per additional hour worked, actually falls until you hit this down to about 62 or down to about 70 hours, somewhere between 62 and 70 hours. It's going to peak and actually begin to decrease. So the trend is going to occur until about this 70-hour point. The more hours you put in, the less you receive per hour, per additional hour worked. So after 70 hours, the additional hour that you work will actually reduce production. And we've been talking about this whole time. And what's going on here? Well, like we keep bringing in that aspect, well, whenever you hire on a couple extra people and having those couple extra people helping you out, you can become more efficient because you're working with extra hands. But then eventually you get to the point where you're hiring on too many people, you're sharing too many tools. Output's still increasing, but it's not increasing at the rate of what it was. And then all of a sudden you get to the point where you've got too many people there working, and output actually falls. And guys, this trend that we've been talking about actually occurs across pretty much all different inputs. This is, we're actually going to call it the law of diminishing marginal product, and that occurs, and we're going to get into that a little bit later on, but that's going to occur across all inputs. So think about fertilizer. You start to use fertilizer, and in the beginning, the fertilizer helps those plants grow very quickly. You see a massive, rapid increase in fertilizer. So you say, you know what, fertilizer is pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more fertilizer. And you add a little bit more fertilizer, and the plants still grow, and they actually grow more than they would have, but not quite at the same rate as what they did by adding just a little bit of fertilizer. And then it gets to a point where you add so much fertilizer that it actually burns the plant. Well, that's the same theory as what's going on here with the labor. That you add a little bit of labor and you start seeing rapid increases in the amount of rates of production on a per additional hour basis. And then you hit this kind of this peak, and then you keep adding more fertilizer or more labor, and we see that production still increases, but not by the same amount. And then all of a sudden you add too much fertilizer, too much labor, and you burn it. It doesn't matter what the input is and what the output is. We see this same phenomenon happen across virtually all inputs.